Hello everyone, today I'm teaching you how to use my top most favorite features of Visual Studio Code so that you also can see this is one of the best IDEs available which actually makes programming fun. Alright, let's get started. Number one, so first thing is that you can open, instead of opening just one file, this IDE allows you to open a folder. So here I can go on File and click on Open on Mac or Open a folder on Windows. Once you do this, you can select the folder that you want to open, and basically you can see all the files inside that folder. Now you might end up having tens or hundreds of files here, so one feature number one is to find one of these files that you want, a specific file among all these files in your folder. In order to do that, hit Control on Windows or Command on Mac and then P. There's a search bar. Now you can type and look for the file that you're looking for inside the directory that you just opened, and then click Enter, and then you can see the file. Again, Control or Command on Mac, and then either select the name of the file or just click start typing, and then you can see the file that you are interested in. Rather than finding it on the left side, I can open it from here. Number two, command palette. So there's a lot of commands under this menus and its submenus. It's hard to memorize where each specific command is, so rather than memorizing them, you can use the command palette, which in order to get there, hold Shift, Command, and P, and then you can see there's again a search box for which you can, in which you can search the command that you're interested in. For example, here I have this code, and I want to see how I can fold it. So hold Shift, Command P, type fold, the command that you're interested in. You can also see the shortcut for doing this. Once I select this, the code is being folded. So rather than finding it inside the menus, I was able to find it there. Now let's find out how I can access the settings. I go and type settings, and I can open the user settings here and change the settings for the Visual Studio Code. Number three, one of the best features is, as I mentioned before, folding. So you can see, like, for every part of your code, there's a button here, and you can basically close and open it so that you can focus on the part that you're more interested in and get rid of the part temporarily that you're not interested in. So you can either use these buttons, or as I showed you, hold Shift Control P and then use one of these fold commands. For example, if I do fold all, everything is going to be folded, and then I can just go and open the file that the part of the code that I'm interested in. Now you can go back to the command palette and unfold everything. So now everything is unfolded, and I can see the entire part of my code. Number four, extensions. So there's a lot of people and companies that add plugins for Visual Studio Code. In order to install them, you go on this button here, click on it, and then you can start typing the extension that you're interested in and search for it. For example, if you're doing C++, you can find all the search and find all the plugins that are available for C++. For example, I have already installed this from Microsoft. It gives you a little bit of help about how to use it, what features every of these plugins have, and you can go through them and see which one you like. One thing that I like to do is that you can sort them based on popularity. So for example, the most popular plugin extension is for Python, which has 15 million people have installed this. After that, there's C++ and then ESLint and so forth. So you can sort it based on multiple things. I recommend definitely check them out and choose the one for your favorite programming language. So for example, if you like JavaScript, There's tons of them available, and then again you can sort them based on popularity and other things. Read its help and then install it. Number 5, one of my most favorite ones, formatting. So as you can see, my code here is not really aligned, this line with the line before. It kind of looks ugly. Instead of formatting it ourselves, so you can either select this and then format it yourself, but instead of doing this, you can use the format command. So hold Shift, again Command and P to go to your command palette and just type format and then format document. As you can see, it gives you the shortcut for doing this, which on Mac is Shift and then Alt or Options and then F. So let's select this. And as you can see, the code is now nicely looking. So let me go back to this previous situation. And then after formatting, you can see how nice it looks like. So let's do, see again, these are not aligned. It looks ugly. I format it and then it looks nice and clean. Now, if you try to format and Visual Studio told you you don't have a formatter, you will see a window opening up here, and it will help you to install one of the extensions here, either for C++, Python, or JavaScript, or whatever language that you're using, so that you can install the formatter. So let's, for example, search for format C++. So this one is actually for Prettier. It's a code formatter, not actually for C++. It's for HTML, CSS, and other things. But the one that is formatting C++ is this one that once you install it, you should be able to format. Number 6, mouse zoom. So this is again one of my most favorite features, that I want to be able to zoom in and zoom out and see my code sometimes larger or sometimes smaller. Now, in order to do this, you hold the command button and then your mouse scroll wheel and go up and down, or you can just do on your touchpad, you can just use the gesture for zoom in and zoom out and make it larger or smaller. Now, in some places, this may not be enabled. In order to enable this, again, go to your command palette, Shift Command P, and then type Settings. And then open User Settings, and then here type mouse zoom, and then make sure this mouse wheel zoom is enabled, or if you don't want it, disable it from here. Once this is enabled, you definitely should be able to do zoom in and zoom out. Number 7, commenting. So let's say I have this part of my code. I don't want to, I want to convert it to comments and get it out of the execution thread. So one way is to comment them out one by one manually. Another option would be use your block comment again manually and comment this out, but Visual Studio allows you to select this and again Shift Command P and then search for comment, and then you can do toggle block comment. It does this automatically for you. Or you can do comment, add line comments. So this is the other format of commenting. Or you can use the shortcut for this, which is on Mac is Command and /. So commenting in, commenting out, and then you can get rid of part of your code or bring it back. Number 8, word wrap or line wrap. So look at this line and look at this line and see these are very long lines. In order to read them, I have to use scroll and go all the way to the right so I'm able to read them. Rather than doing this, you can go to your command palette again and choose wrap, search for wrap. This tells you toggle word wrap. You can also see its shortcut, which is Option Z. And then once you click on it, this line, which is still one line, if you notice here, there's still line 9 and line 10. But line 9 itself is wrapped around and it's shown in 2 lines. So now we can read it much more easier. Number 9, finding. So let's say I have this text and I want to find another text inside my code. In order to do this, hold the command button and then F, and you're able to start searching. So for example, here I want to search for stdcout. As you can see, as I type here in this box, I can see whatever it finds is going to be highlighted. And then there's some options here. You could also select find and then open this window and then also replace whatever you find with something else. So let's say in this case I want to replace std::out with just cout, and then I can either do them one by one or I can do them all together at once using these two buttons. Now there's one more thing I want to show you. Let's say I want to only replace the cout in these lines and don't touch the ones that are not highlighted or selected. So there's this button here, you can click on it. It only does the search and replacement inside for the selected part of your code, finding selection. Now once I do this and I hit this button, only this part is going to be changed, but this part is not changing. Now before I finish, I want to show you one more thing here. Another way to do this replacement would be selecting this, right click, and then use the option called change all occurrences. So once I click this, I can now type cout, and as you can see, when I type cout, I have multiple cursors, and then I can change it to whatever I want to. So this is really cool. This is like you're typing in multiple lines at the same time. So let's put it back in std::cout. Now I want to show you one more thing also, which is let's go to another file here. Okay, so let's say I have multiple variables here and I want to change the name of this variable here, I. Now I could go ahead and do replacement of I, let's say to my var. And then when I do replace all, you can see like every other I inside this file is going to be converted. So this is not what we want. Now you could go ahead and do I and select this one, which is just a word separated, a whole word separated by spaces around it. But the best way for doing this, rather than doing search and replace, is to select the variable name or identifier name that you want to change, right click, and then there is this option called rename symbol. So once I do this, I give it a new name, and Visual Studio goes and finds all the occurrences that it thinks is going to be this variable name and not any other I. So for example, not this I here, not this I here, but it's a symbol. So you can search and review them and see if these are whatever the Visual Studio found is correct. If one of them you don't like, you can take it out. For example, if I don't want this one, I can take it out. And then once you approve whatever you want to change, you click on this. And then, as you can see, these are changed. This is the one that we didn't select. And this one is in quotations. It's not exactly a symbol, so it didn't change. Let me bring them back. All right, so that's how we change the name of a symbol. Up next, MultiCursor. So this is kind of fancy. Look, we have multiple lines here. Let's say I want to add something here. I hold Option key on Mac or Alt key on Windows, and then I click here, and then I click here, and then I click here. Let's say I want to add on these 4 lines the same text. So this is as you can see, as I start typing, it's as if there are multiple cursors on these lines and I can type on 4 lines at the same time. So again, in order to add cursor at any point that you want, click and hold Option key on Mac or Alt key on Windows. Let's say I want to add one more here, one here, one here, and one here. And then now I start typing, and voila, you can type at multiple places at the same time. Up next, block select. So let's say I want to select this part of my code in the column format and type something and get rid of it. This way I can delete them or bring it back. Or let's say from this part to this part, I can select and do whatever I want with it. So again, I can type on multi-lines at the same time. So one thing you should notice in order to do this is that you hold Shift and then Option or Option on Mac, Alt on Windows, and then you start clicking and then drag your mouse where you are interested. So Shift, Option, and then click and drag. Now the other thing you can do is you can do the same thing. Again, if I want to write on multiple lines at the same time, I can hold Shift and then Option and then drag. I create a really long cursor here. As you can see, this cursor is now really long. And then you can type on multiple lines at the same time. So let's say I want to print something, and then I want it to be all the same on the same line. So this is how we do multiple line printing on Visual Studio Code. Up next, code snippets. So I can either type the code that I want to write. For example, a for loop, I can either type it manually, or rather than doing this, I can use code snippets. So as I type for, Visual Studio provides some options for me. This one, if you look at the right hand side, is a short version of a for loop. So it gives me how to write this for loop. Sometimes these snippets are not available, so you have to go inside the extensions and make sure the snippets that you're looking for, you can install them and use them. So again, with this one that I just showed you, the default snippets are available, but if you want something more fancy, you can search for it. And let's search for JavaScript snippets. As you can see, this one is a very popular one. 2.7 million people have used it, and it's a bunch of code snippets for JavaScript, and it also tells you what to type and what it would trigger as the code snippet that you're interested in. So now let me do this one more time and show you a couple of more features. So I type for, I can type I here. So as you can see, this has multiple cursors, so I can change this to another variable if I want at the same time. And then there's this other cursor here, which means if I push tab, I will be brought here and I can type the other one, which is my loop number. So let's do this one more time for, and then select the snippet that you want. You have multiple cursors, and then you can switch between these placeholders using your tab button. Now I want to do, I like using other people's snippets, but I also like writing my own snippets. So for example, here I have two variables, and let's say I want to print them out. Rather than writing this myself, I can go ahead and use the snippet that I previously designed for myself. So for me, if you write dbg, meaning I want to debug the value of this variable, and then just click on it, you can see that there's this stdc out, and then I can push the value of the variable inside quotes, and then it also prints it here for me. So let's say I want to print the value of d. I just type dbg, enter, and then I push the name of the variable. Now, how did I design this? How can you design your own snippets? Shift, Command, and P, go to your command palette, type snippet, and then configure user snippets. Now, use the language that you're interested in. So let's say I want to do C++. This gives you a JSON file, which I can go through them and write the one that I'm interested in. So this part is done by me. Basically, I'm saying the name of each of these is one snippet. So this called is debug. Its prefix is what I type here. This is a prefix that gives me the option, so dbg. And then the body would be stdc out, this, and then this is the first variable that I want to type. So as I type dbg, this first cursor is this $1. And then if I put $1 here again, it creates multi-cursor. I can type them at the same time. So play with this and see what happens if you do double, like another variable, and take two variables instead of one. So now I can type I and then hit tab to get to my other variable. So play with it and see if you can design your own snippets. I bring this back again. If you want to use my snippets, you can just go to my GitHub. I will put the address of this URL on the description. You can go on my GitHub. I have uploaded a couple of snippet files for you. You can download it and use them. Up next, going to the definition. So let's say I'm in the middle of my file and I see the variable and I don't know where I define this, maybe in a different file or maybe somewhere up here. So rather than searching, I can, first of all, if you put your mouse cursor on top of it, it shows you what the definition is. But if you hold the command button or control button on Windows, you can see that it gets, actually it becomes a link. You can click on it and it takes you to the point that it was defined. So going back here, I click on this, hold the command button on any of its occurrences, and I go to its definition. You can do the same thing with these include files in C++ or also in JavaScript. You can hold the command button, click on it. It shows you, it can take you to where the file was defined. All right, another way of doing this is to right click on the file and just go to definition. So this is just another way to find where my variable was defined. So like this function is defined in another file. I'm in this file now. When I click on it, it takes me to the other file and I can see the definition of this function. Now I can go back. Up next, using integrated terminals. So if you work with Visual Studio Code and you need to use a terminal, you can either go to your default operating system terminal and use that, or you can use this menu and then open a new terminal. And then you can use the integrated terminal inside Visual Studio Code. Now, a couple of cool features that I want to show you here. First of all, you can have multiple terminals. So this is my terminal 1, this is terminal 2. I can close it. I can add as many terminals as I want and go back and forth between my terminals. Now, you can also have two terminals side by side using this button and then go back and forth between them and see different things in these different terminals. So I can now close them. So one more thing I want to show you about terminals is that let's say the fonts here are too small and I want to make them a little bit larger. So again, go to your command palette, type user settings. Inside user settings, type terminal font. And then as you can see, there's a number here. I can change it to something a little bit larger. And voila, the fonts are now larger. The other thing that you can change here, which might be useful to you, is what kind of terminal you want to see. So on Linux, you can open Xterm. On Mac, you can have terminal.app, but on Windows, you can change your default terminal to either cmd.exe or any other terminal that you can install on Windows and use that one instead. So once you do this, then all right, up next, another cool feature is that you can compare and find the differences between two files. So let's say I have two files here and I want to compare them with each other. Click the first file, hold shift and click the next file, and then right click and then select compare selected. So once you do this, it will show you both files side by side in a split window, and then you can see how these two files are different. So here I changed this my var to your var, so I see the difference. On the right hand side it shows you where the differences are, and then I have one extra comment lines on this line on this left side which I don't have on the right side, and then again I have this difference here. So again, you click on the files that you're interested, holding shift and then right click and then compare selected. All right, last but not least, Git. So Visual Studio Code integrates with Git really well. In order to use its features for Git, you go on this left side and click on this icon here. Let me do it again. This icon on the left side, and then click it. So once you do this, you can see what files have been changed compared to your Git repository. So here, all the files that are changed are shown here for me. So this file, U means it's untracked, that is not inside my Git repository yet. It's a new file. M is modified, so this file is modified, this file is untracked, and so forth. Now, if you click on any of these files, it shows you how this file has changed from the last time that you got it from your repository. So how this file has changed and evolved. I can see the difference between each file. So rather than doing git command lines on your terminal, for example, I can do git status and see what files have been modified and what files are untracked. I can see them inside this window. Now let's say I want to check in and commit some of these files. So this is under changes. If I want to commit any of these files, I have to stage them. So you select the ones that you want to commit, and then you click on this plus button, and then the ones that you are interested to check in, they will go under this line that is called staged changes. Stage changes means once I commit, I want to commit these guys here. Now I can just go to my command palette and do git commit. I can write some comments about my commit, and once you push, you're going to commit whatever you staged at this point. So let's see if these are good with us. I'm happy with these commits, with these changes. So let's go ahead and then go to your command palette, git commit, some minor changes, and then hit enter. All right, so now if I do git status, these three files that I see on the left side are still not staged, but the other ones are staged. This is still not added, which is under my changes. If I want to add it again, I have to go and stage it. Now, after committing, what you want to do is git push. So again, going to your command palette, git push, and then you can see there is some processing going on this left side, and then after a while this is pushed and everything is my repository updated. Alright, that's it guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this will help you enjoy Visual Studio Code as much as I do. Thank you.